skyship drifted gently through the waning light, the sun casting long shadows over the deck as Elara Voss stood alone at the prow. The clouds stretched like a vast sea beneath her, swirling and shifting in golden and crimson hues that seemed to set the heavens ablaze. The air was cool and sharp, carrying the faint scent of ozone from the storm that had passed hours earlier. Elara's fingers closed tightly around the cartographer's compass, its delicate gears spinning with a soft, rhythmic hum that matched the beating of her heart. The compass had led her through tempests and betrayals, through uncharted skies and the shadows of her own doubts. Now, in this quiet moment suspended between day and night, she felt its true weight not as a mere instrument of navigation, but as a guide to her soul. Behind her, the gentle murmur of the crew stirred far enough to afford her solitude, yet close enough to remind her of the bonds forged in fire and flight. Cale Merrin's steady presence was a silent comfort, a counterpoint to the swirling chaos that had marked their journey. The rugged mechanic had proven himself time and again, his quick wit and unyielding loyalty grounding the crew through storm and strife. And then there was Professor Lysandra Hale, whose sharp intellect and cautious wisdom had illuminated the mysteries of the floating islands and the fragile worlds they sought to protect. Inside the cabin, the three gathered around a weathered wooden table, maps and charts strewn about like fragments of a dream. Lantern light flickered, casting warm glows on faces etched with exhaustion and determination. Their voices were low, weaving between laughter and reflection, a balm after days of relentless pursuit. Elara listened as Cal recounted a narrow escape through the storm, his tone light but eyes betraying the lingering fear. Lysandra offered her insights into the ancient texts they had uncovered, her words tinged with urgency and hope. It was a moment of camaraderie that reminded Elara of the strength found not just in charts and compasses, but in shared purpose. Later, alone once more, Elara knelt beside the spread of maps on the cabin floor. Her fingers traced the delicate lines that hinted at islands, yet unseen mysteries waiting beyond the horizon. The rain began to patter softly against the porthole, a steady rhythm that echoed the pulse of her thoughts. Memories washed over her, the mentor lost, the failures that haunted her steps, the sacrifices made in the name of discovery. Yet beneath the melancholy was a steadfast resolve, a promise to carry forward, to honor those who had come before by continuing the quest. As night deepened, Elara emerged onto the deck, the sky above a tapestry of stars that shimmered like distant beacons of possibility. The compass pulsed faintly in her hand, a silent heartbeat in the vast darkness. The ship rocked gently beneath her feet, cradled by the whispering wind that seemed to beckon her onward. In this moment, surrounded by the endless sky, Elara felt the true meaning of exploration, not just the mapping of unknown lands, but the journey within. The compass was no longer just a tool, it was a symbol of transformation. It had led her through storms without and storms within, guiding her toward a new understanding of trust, leadership, and hope. With the crew by her side and the mysteries of the floating islands unfolding before them, Elara embraced the endless horizon, ready to chart new courses through the skies and her own heart. But as the stars watched silently overhead, a question lingered in the air: what new challenges awaited beyond the map's edge? And how would Elara's newfound wisdom shape the adventures yet to come? The first light of dawn spilled over the horizon in brilliant hues of rose and amber, bathing the skyship in a warm, golden glow. Elara Voss stood at the prow, the cool morning breeze ruffling her short dark hair as her sharp green eyes traced the endless expanse of swirling clouds and drifting islands ahead. Around her, the crew stirred with a quiet energy, their faces illuminated by the promise of new horizons and the adventures that awaited them. The cartographer's compass rested gently in Elara's palm, its faint luminescence pulsing like a heartbeat, steady and sure, guiding their way into the unknown. Steady as she goes, Elara murmured, her voice a blend of reverence and resolve. The skyship responded, its sails billowing as it sliced through the shifting currents of the floating archipelago. Beside her, Cale Merrin adjusted the rigging with practiced ease, a wry grin tugging at his lips despite the weight of the journey ahead. "You feeling the same pull I am?" Cal chuckled softly, his tousled brown hair catching the early light. "Every inch, Captain. This compass of yours, it's something else. Like it's alive, whispering secrets only we can hear." Elara allowed herself a rare smile. The years of solitude, the countless hours spent poring over ancient maps, and the haunting memory of her lost mentor all coalesced into this singular moment. They were no longer merely chasing legends. They were forging a new chapter in the history of exploration. Below deck, the quiet hum of the ship's engine mingled with the soft rustle of parchment as Professor Lysandra Hale leaned over a sprawling table of newly charted maps. Her silver-streaked hair shimmered in the dim light, and her blue eyes sparkled with a mixture of scholarly curiosity and cautious optimism. "These islands," she said thoughtfully, tracing the delicate lines that connected scattered symbols, "they challenge everything we thought we knew. Their ecosystems are fragile yet rich with life. We must tread carefully." Cal nodded in agreement. "We've seen what greed can do up there. Marik's shadow still looms, but here we have a chance to protect something truly precious." The conversation was interrupted by a sudden call from the deck above. Elara's voice cut through the air, steady and commanding. "All hands on deck!" "It's time to prepare." The crew gathered swiftly, the camaraderie forged through trials evident in their synchronized movements and shared glances. As they assembled around the helm, Elara addressed them with a fervor that ignited hope in every heart. "We stand on the cusp of discovery. What lies ahead is uncharted, filled with unknown dangers and wonders. But together, we will face the storms, the shadows, and the mysteries. The compass is not just a tool, it's a symbol of our spirit, our courage, and our unyielding quest for knowledge." A hush fell over the group, broken only by the steady creak of the ship's timbers and the whisper of winds that carried the scent of distant rain and blooming skyflowers. In that moment, the weight of their journey settled but did not crush. It lifted and propelled them forward. As the sun climbed higher, the skyship veered toward the first of the newly revealed islands, its jagged cliffs and lush greenery emerging from the mist like a dream made real. Elara's heart pounded not with fear, but with the fierce joy of a seeker who had finally glimpsed the horizon she had chased for so long. Night descended softly, the sky awash with stars that twinkled like scattered gems across the velvet blackness. Around a flickering lantern, the crew shared stories of old adventures and whispered hopes for those yet to come. Laughter mingled with the distant calls of the island's nocturnal creatures, weaving a tapestry of warmth and unity against the cool breath of the night. Elara sat quietly, her journal open in her lap, the compass's glow a comforting presence beside her. She sketched the outlines of the islands, her thoughts weaving between the tangible and the intangible, the maps and the mysteries, the known and the unknowable. In the stillness, she understood that this journey was far from over. The new horizons beckoned with all their peril and promise, and she was ready to meet them head-on. With the dawn, they would sail further into the drifting skies, the compass their guide and their bond. The endless sky stretched out before them, vast and inviting, a canvas for the next chapter of their adventure, a story of courage, trust, and the undying human spirit that dares to explore beyond the edges of the map. "Steady crew," Elara called softly, her voice a beacon in the quiet night. The air was thick with tension as Elara Voss convened the gathering on the deck of the skyship Meridian. The creaking of the wooden beams mingled with the low murmurs of the assembled leaders, representatives of the disparate island factions whose territories dotted the drifting archipelago. Each faction bore its own history, customs, and grievances, some ancient and deep-rooted, others fresh and raw. The fragile peace held only by necessity was fraying, and the stakes had never been higher. Elara's sharp green eyes scanned the room, noting the wary glances exchanged between hardened island chieftains and her own crew. Cale Merrin stood near the rigging, his rugged features taut with concern but calm, the faint scent of oil and leather clinging to him, even amidst the charged atmosphere. Professor Lysandra Hale moved quietly among the groups, distributing ancient texts and sharing whispered insights, her silver-streaked hair catching the dim light as she sought to bridge the widening gulf with knowledge. "We stand on the brink of discovery," Elara began, her voice steady despite the storm clouds gathering overhead. "The cartographer's compass has revealed pathways we only dreamed of. But these paths cross more than sky, they intersect with the lives and lands of those who call these islands home. We cannot afford to sow discord where unity is our only shield." A gruff voice cut through the murmurs, an island chieftain, whose weathered face bore the scars of countless storms. "Your crew comes as strangers, charting our skies and seeking treasures that belong to us. Why should we trust your promises when the sky pirates hunt these same secrets for greed and control?" Elara met his gaze without flinching. "Because we seek knowledge, not dominion. Because the compass guides not just to hidden lands, but to understanding. And because, without cooperation, all of us risk losing everything to those who would exploit these skies for their own gain." The room fell into uneasy silence. Professor Hale stepped forward, unfurling a brittle scroll. "These texts speak of an ancient covenant, an alliance formed in ages past to protect the islands from those who would ravage them. The signs point to a time when unity was the key to survival. We would do well to remember their wisdom." As the conversation wove between skepticism and hope, Cal found a moment to approach Elara. "The storm's coming faster than expected," he murmured, eyes lingering on the darkening horizon. "If we don't secure these alliances soon, we'll be caught in more than just weather." Elara nodded, her mind racing. The fragile threads of trust she was weaving could unravel with a single misstep. Yet the promise of discovery and the survival of the islands depended on it. Night descended, and the council moved below deck into the warmth of the Meridian's cabin. Lantern light flickered against the walls, casting shadows that danced like ghosts of the past. Here, amid the ancient texts and whispered negotiations, Elara pressed for understanding, for common cause. Celine, the fierce lieutenant of Captain Murray Crane, lurked in the shadows outside, her sharp eyes watching every move. The pirates' ambitions would not be so easily thwarted. But for now, Elara's voice was the one that carried weight, steady and resolute. Hours passed as dialogue gave way to agreement, grudging but sincere. The factions agreed to a truce, pledging to share knowledge and resources for the coming challenges. The compass's mysteries were no longer a solitary quest, they were a shared destiny. As dawn broke over the floating islands, the storm clouds parted just enough to reveal a horizon painted in hues of gold and rose. Elara stood at the bow, the cool breeze stirring her short dark hair, a quiet smile touching her lips. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger both natural and human, but for the first time, she felt the weight of leadership balanced by the strength of unity. Together, she whispered to the skies, "We will chart a new map, one of trust, discovery, and hope." The Meridian surged forward, cutting through the shifting currents of the skies toward the unknown. And somewhere beyond the clouds, new worlds awaited. Cal Merrin's hands hovered over the humming core engine, the intricate machinery alive with energy yet trembling under the weight of a brewing tempest. The air in the cramped engine room was thick with the scent of oil and ozone, mingling with the faintest hint of rain seeping through the weather-sealed panels. Outside, the first rumbles of thunder rolled across the drifting islands, a grim reminder of the storm fast approaching. He paused, fingers brushing a frayed wire sparking with dangerous arcs of electricity. A bead of sweat traced down his temple, merging with the grime that coated his face and hands. Around him, the skyship groaned, a metallic beast uneasy under the sky's mounting fury. The engine was their heart, and if it faltered, so would they. Kel's mind flickered to the past. The memories were sharp, jagged of a failed flight years before, where a miscalculated repair had led to disaster. The loss still haunted him like a storm cloud refusing to break. He had vowed never to let such failure define him again. The door hissed open, and Elara stepped inside, her sharp green eyes catching the flicker of sparks, and the tension itched deep into Cal's features. "How is it holding?" she asked quietly, her voice steady but edged with concern. "Fragile," Cal admitted, his voice low. "But I think I can stabilize it. Just need to replace this circuit and reroute the power flow." Elara nodded, stepping closer to peer at the delicate work. "Be careful. We can't afford another misstep." He managed a small, grateful smile. "I know." Outside, the sky darkened rapidly. Clouds churned in violent swirls, their edges illuminated by the occasional flash of lightning. The sound of rain began to patter against the hull, growing into a relentless drumbeat. The crew braced themselves, their faces a blend of determination and apprehension. Cal's fingers worked with practiced precision, the familiar rhythm of wrenching bolts and twisting wires grounding him. Each connection he remade, each spark he tamed, was a small victory against the chaos threatening to consume them. But beneath the technical focus, a deeper struggle unfolded, a battle to silence the doubts that gnawed at his confidence. Minutes stretched into an eternity as the storm's fury crescendoed. The skyship shuddered violently, buffeted by winds and lightning strikes. Alarms blared softly, warning of system strain. Cal's breath hitched, but his hands did not falter. "Elara," he called over the roar, voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. "I'm ready to reroute." She moved beside him, her presence a steady anchor in the tempest. "Do it. We redepending on you." With a deep breath, Cal flipped the switch. Electricity surged through the rewired circuits, the engine's hum growing stronger, more stable. The lights flickered, then steadied. The storm's assault continued, but the skyship held firm. Relief flooded Cal like a tide, washing away the shadows of past failure. He looked at Elara, who met his gaze with a nod of approval and something warmer: trust, respect, a shared strength forged in adversity. The storm might rage around them, but inside the mechanical heart of the skyship, a new resolve was beating. Cal was no longer the haunted pilot of yesterday. He was the steadfast guardian of their journey, a vital force in the expedition's uncertain future. As the skies began to clear, the crew emerged from their stations, their faces brightening with cautious hope. Elara clapped a hand on Cal's shoulder. "You did it. We all did." He smiled, the weight of fear lifting, together. Yet even as calm returned, Cal knew this was but one battle. The floating islands held many secrets and dangers still, and the storm was only the beginning. But with the crew united and his fears confronted, he was ready to face whatever the endless sky would throw at them next. The mechanical heart of their vessel beat strong, and so did the spirit of those who dared to explore the unknown. The journey was far from over, and in that truth lay their greatest hope. Cal glanced once more toward the horizon, where the drifting islands beckoned through the lingering mist. The past was behind him now, and the future awaited, vast, mysterious, and filled with the promise of discovery. The sky was endless, and so was their resolve. And somewhere deep within the shifting clouds, the cartographer's compass pulsed with quiet power, ready to reveal the next path in their extraordinary voyage. The soft flicker of lantern light cast long shadows across the cramped cabin of the skyship, painting the worn wooden walls with muted gold. Professor Lysandra Hale sat cross-legged on a cushioned bench, a fragile parchment unfurled before her on the table. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and ink, mingling with the faint aroma of oil from the ship's machinery. Around her, Elara Voss and Cal Merrin leaned in, their eyes fixed on the cryptic symbols and delicate illustrations that adorned the ancient document. "This," Lysandra whispered, her voice reverent, "is one of the oldest records we've found so far. It speaks of the very births of the floating isles." Elara's sharp green eyes scanned the intricate drawings, swirling currents of air and water. colossal roots seemingly tethering the islands to the clouds, and ethereal creatures that danced between realms. "It's more than a map," she murmured. "It's a story." Kale shifted, the leather of his flight jacket creaking softly, and a warning, "I'd wager these illustrations. They don't just chart geography, they hint at balance, fragility." Lysandra nodded, fingers tracing the fragile lines with care. "Legend and fact intertwine here. The floating islands are not mere land masses adrift, but living ecosystems sustained by forces we barely comprehend." The texts hint at a symbiotic relationship between the islands and the skies themselves. Disrupt one, and the entire chain could unravel. The weight of her words settled over the trio. The glow of the bioluminescent plants drifting past the ship's porthole cast a serene blue light, almost hypnotic. Elara stood, moving to the window to watch the gentle sway of those glowing tendrils, their soft pulses a quiet reminder of the life thriving beyond their vessel. "It's breathtaking," she said softly, "but it also makes the stakes painfully clear. We're not just explorers, we're custodians, whether we like it or not." Kale's voice was low but firm as he joined her at the porthole. "That's the rub, isn't it? Our quest for discovery could be the very thing that dooms these worlds. If we're not careful, we might be the destruction we sought to avoid." Back at the table, Lysandra spread out a series of maps, their edges worn and delicate. "Look here," she said, pointing to a cluster of islands marked with tiny symbols, sanctuaries, she called them. "These places have remained untouched for centuries. The text suggests they were vital to the island's survival, ecological keystones. Any interference could cause cascading effects." Elara's mind raced. The compass had led them this far, revealing secrets beyond imagination, but now it demanded more than charting new lands. It demanded wisdom. "We have to decide," she said quietly, "where our priorities lie. Is the thirst for knowledge worth the risk of exploitation?" Kale's jaw tightened. "It's not just about us anymore. The Sky Pirates, Marik, they'll see those sanctuaries as treasure troves to exploit. If we don't act responsibly, the damage will be irreversible." The room grew charged with tension as the crew assembled for an impromptu meeting. Voices rose and fell, some arguing for cautious exploration, others urging swift action before their rivals could claim the island's secrets. Elara listened, feeling the weight of leadership press heavily upon her. "We must be guardians," she declared finally. "Our mission isn't just to map the unknown, but to protect it. We'll navigate carefully, respect the balance these islands maintain, and keep their secrets safe from those who seek to exploit them." Lysandra smiled faintly, her eyes shining with relief. "A noble path, Elara, one that honors both the past and the future." The night deepened, and the ship drifted onward, carrying them toward horizons filled with wonder and fraught with peril. The ancient text lay folded carefully away, a solemn reminder that every discovery bore a responsibility. Outside, the floating isles shimmered like jewels suspended in the vast expanse of sky, beautiful, mysterious, and fragile. Elara's fingers brushed the compass at her side, feeling its subtle pulse. This journey was far from over. The balance between knowledge and preservation would define not only their quest, but the fate of the drifting worlds themselves. As the first light of dawn painted streaks of amber and rose across the horizon, Elara felt a renewed resolve. The lore of the floating isles was no longer just a tale to follow. It was a call to stewardship, a challenge to navigate the delicate line between discovery and destruction. The skies awaited, endless and enigmatic, and Elara Voss was ready to face whatever truths they held with courage, wisdom, and a heart attuned to the fragile harmony of the worlds she sought to uncover. But as the ship surged forward, a distant shadow stirred on the horizon, a reminder that the greatest threats were not only natural but born of human ambition. The delicate dance of exploration and preservation had only just begun, and the choices they made now would echo across the drifting isles for generations to come. The compass hummed softly, a beacon in the vast unknown, guiding Elara and her crew toward destinies yet unwritten.